welcome back to the Theology of Rhythm podcast. My name is Reagan Cannington. Hope you're all doing well. I'm doing pretty good. School was canceled these past few days, so that was nice to catch up on some work and some stuff for the Theology of Rhythm podcast and other whatnot, setting up some other stuff. That was good, but school's back in today. Snow's gone. It's all pretty much melted, but that's fine. We had fun in the snow, sledding down some of the hills. That was good. But I hope you're all doing well. I hope y'all have been listening to the past 2 episodes. I'm really excited to keep going on this. This has been pretty fun for me so far, and I've really enjoyed just talking about some of my thoughts and some things that I've had in my mind for a while now and written down in my notes app or whatever. Just finally putting it out there, and I'm really glad about that. So I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. But so let's just get straight into the topic today. The question for today is, are worship musicians leaders? That's the question. Is the worship leader the leader, or is everybody the leader? And the answer is yes. All the worship musicians are leaders. So let's get into that. So a lot of musicians think that because I'm playing drums, I'm playing bass or piano, I'm in the back line, or I'm only singing harmony or whatever. I'm not leading the song. I'm just background vocal. That they're not leading, they're not in a leadership position. But that is not the case. If you are seen by the congregation, if you can be heard by the congregation, and you are on stage shaping worship, shaping the song and serving the song, then you are absolutely leading. You are in the driver's seat just as much as everybody else is. And so let's talk about some biblical definitions of leadership and what it means to be a leader from Scripture. So, leadership is not just the title, but it's the influence that you have. Luke 6:40 says, "A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher." Now, what does that mean? So, people are always being formed by somebody. I'm sure you have somebody that you look up to, whether it's your parent or it's your worship leader, the person that actually has that title. That they're on staff at your church. I bet you look up to them. I know I look up to mine. He's a great musician and a great man, so I look up to him. But you're always being formed by somebody, and the same is true for everybody else. The people in the congregation are being formed by the people on stage. And so when you bear that responsibility, you need to think like that. You need to think they are being formed by me and by everybody else that comes on the stage, not only the worship musicians, but also the pastor or any other speakers that you have come up during your service. They're being shaped by those people. And so I would hope they're all having that mindset too, but you need to have that mindset as well. And so let's look at some worship leaders in Scripture. I bet number one that should come to mind is the Levites. They're one of the first in the Old Testament. 1 Chronicles 15:16 says, David, this is when David appoints them as worship leaders. So it says, David also commanded the chiefs of the Levites to appoint their brothers as the singers, who should play loudly on musical instruments, on harps, lyres, and cymbals, to raise sounds of joy. I like that it says play loudly. That's one of my big things, is I like to play loudly. If you see my videos that I post, I hit pretty hard. But yeah, so they were appointed these roles of responsibility, playing these musical instruments and to raise sounds of joy. and they're leading Israel into obedience and following the law and loving the Lord, not just singing. And so that brings us to a later passage in 1 Chronicles where it says, 1 Chronicles 25, 7 and 8, the number of them along with their brothers who were trained in singing, so again that's the Levites from 15, who were trained in singing to the Lord, catch this, all who were skillful. That goes back to, when I talked about musicianship in worship. So the Bible commands being skillful in worship, and it even says here that the people that are the ones worshiping are skillful. Got off track, sorry. Who were trained in singing to the Lord, all who were skillful, was 288. So there were 288 of them. That's good. And they cast lots for their duties, small and great, teacher and pupil alike. They were called to be this. They were appointed. They had the skill to do it and the training. And so that's why they were put in as leaders. God saw this as good to organize and appoint them, and that they were trained, so they had the ability, this God-given talent and ability to do it. And that's why they were appointed, is because of their spiritual not spiritual ability, their musical ability, but also because of they were able to bear the spiritual weight of being a leader to this congregation. And so that gets us into my next point, that you lead even when you're not on the mic. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're the drummer, the bassist, piano, if you're doing the percussion, I see some guys that do that. That looks really fun. And I would do that in another life if I wasn't, playing drums. I would do the percussion. That seems really fun. But absolutely, when you lead on stage, you're setting the tone for the congregation of the song. Bassists, when you're jumping up and down to say the song "The Joy," oh, it's like you're setting that joyful tone. You're up there jumping up and down, hitting the bass, and it's like you're showing the congregation what the feeling of the song. You're physically embodying the feeling. Same with drummers. I always say that I wish the drums could move, because I really do have a problem with just being seated in my spot, having to just be there. And I try my best to physically move, and I think I move a lot more than some other drummers. But I don't know. I much prefer being on bass for the physicalness of it. I love drums just because it's the best instrument. It's my favorite. But I do love being on bass because I'm able to move around and to jump up and down. And I talked about this one time with one of the pastors at my church, that worship is so physical. We embody God's goodness to us. It's like this is this amazing thing. It's like, why are we not jumping up and down? He has blessed us. He has given us new life, and it's like we're just gonna stand there and just sit there watching the band. Like what? That's why I love moving around when I'm leading. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. But in Matthew 18:6, this is talking about leadership and the accountability of it. You're even though you're on stage and you have this weight, you're held accountable for what happens. In Matthew 18:6, it says, "But whoever causes these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him." I love certain parts of just another tangent. I love certain parts of the Bible like this, where it is like, it's like when you do this, and then it's like the most extreme thing. I think it really just shows the gravity and the weight of sin. The fact that we're broken sinners, and God is so great that it's like these we need to be put in such extreme language so that we can wrap our minds around how deep sin is and how horrible and disgusting it is, so that we know to flee from it and to go to the holy God. But whoever, Matthew 18:6, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be dropped into the depth of the sea. That's a lot. I mean, like, if you're causing someone else to stumble, it'd be better for you to just be thrown in the bottom of the ocean. That's hard, you know? So this ties into the fact that leadership means accountability. You're going to be held for your own actions, whether it's on stage or off stage, you know? I know a lot of things have happened, like in bigger, like, mega churches. I'm sure y'all have seen the documentaries where you have these on-stage people that they do nothing wrong on stage. I mean, seriously, they hit the perfect notes. They always play the right chords. They're not doing anything too flashy. But it's like their off-stage actions are not good. You know, they're not doing things that are pleasing and honorable to the Lord. And so that's why we need to have this carefulness and reverence when we're on stage, especially on stage, also off stage, because the stage is not something neutral. It is something that can either have a positive or negative impact on yourself and on the people that you're serving. The people that you're serving and the other musicians. You don't want to be a clown on stage and mess up all the other musicians, because that can cause lots of disunity. That can cause the congregation to be distracted. You don't want to have this crazy guitar tone that's just wild and it sounds ridiculous in the ears, and it causes the singers to get off. You don't want to play silly riffs that are just going to be distracting. I see sometimes people try to sneak in, like, I saw somebody sneak in, like, Sweet Child O' Mine into Battle Belongs by Phil Wickham. And it's like, it's just distracting. It's just not helpful. It's just like a sense of performance, you know? And so I'm not a fan of that. And I think that can lead to some ego issues of, like, you're playing your thing and not for him. Because I can tell you, Sweet Child of Mine was not written for God. And so it can be distracting. It's carelessness. So I would say be careful when you're on stage. Be reverent. Be leading. Now, that doesn't mean be stiff. That means worship God how he's meant to be worshipped. Be joyful. Be glad. Have a smile on your face when you're leading. But just don't be a clown. Be good. Be serving to the people around you, and glorify God in that. Paul instructs us also to lead by example. 1 Timothy 4:12. I'm sure y'all know this verse, mainly because of the first half, but the back half is kind of what we're going to get into. Sorry. Let no one despise you for your youth. I've heard this a lot because I'm only 18, and I've played in church since I was like 13, 14 when I started playing in youth group. And then I think I joined our church's college ministry at 16, which is funny because I was a sophomore playing drums in college. But that's whatever. But I joined the main worship team not long after, and so a lot of people told me that kind of stuff. But I don't get it as much anymore because I'm old. But it says, let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers as an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, in purity. This this goes directly to the musicians. Not directly, I mean, it goes to everybody, but to you, the musician on stage, you need to be an example. We're going to read that again. Be an example in speech, conduct, love, faith, purity. This is how you act on stage. This is how you act in rehearsal. This is how you prepare through the week. This is how you act when worship's happening. Your example is going to be much louder than the notes you play. People say actions are louder than words. It's like, well, your example on stage is louder than the drum you hit. No one's going to they're not going to feel the joy of the Lord if your mic is on your mic stand and you're standing there like singing the joy just stiff like that. You need to lead the people in worship and in loving God and in glorifying his name. And people, the congregation especially, and you can even see this in secular concerts. People imitate what they see, This doesn't happen in church. I hope not, because it'd be weird. But in secular concerts, you see the artists, they move their hands like this, and everybody in the crowd starts doing that. They put a flashlight up, and everybody pulls out their phone flashlights. So people are going to imitate what they see on stage. And so when you're jumping up and down, people are going to be moving along with you. When I was working at a VBS at a separate church, but a church that I'm closely tied to because of a lot of close friends, and I went to the high school ministry there. Not my home church, different church. They would say, I'm pretty sure a girl that was working there, she told me, she said, give 150%. She's like, the kids are only going to give half, because it's kids, obviously. We're working with like 1st through 6th graders. She's like, the kids are only going to give half of what you give, so give 150%. And I was like, wow, that's really good, because they're especially because they're little kids, they're not going to be super into it. They're kind of going to be embarrassed of like, what are my little friends going to think, And so we want them to be into it, and being their leaders, because I was a small group leader for a minute, and then I helped out in other areas and in other years. But you want to lead them, and kids are going to follow the example. And so this brings us to my next point, that leadership without shepherding can be a bad thing. James 3:1 says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness." I remember I think it was the first time I heard this verse. I was at my grandmother's house. I was really young. I don't know why I remember this so well, but I do. The first time I ever heard this verse, we were watching Daystar, and Robert Morris read this verse, and he was like, who's going to be judged greater? Me, because of this verse. And he's absolutely right. I mean, he is right. But you look at events now, and it's like, interesting, kind of interesting. And so, us musicians, we fall into that category of influence on the congregation, especially some of you who I hope would go up to be elders. I know a lot of worship pastors at church are like elders, and sometimes even people on the worship team are also doubling as elders at other churches. But so I would hope that you would desire to hold a leadership role at your church, but you should keep this verse in mind, And we teach with words, absolutely, because of the songs that we choose. The congregation is learning these songs and taking these songs to heart, and that's what they're going to think. They're going to think about the songs that we play on Sunday. And so you want to choose good songs, but we're also teaching with posture, tone, presence, how we are, how we act as regular people off the stage, but also on the stage. And so just know that your role as a musician on stage, whether you're the worship leader, that's your title in planning center, whether you're a backup singer, whether you're on the keys, electric, acoustic, whatever it is, you're not just filling space. You're not just on stage to like serve the music. You're not just supporting the singer. You are guiding people into worship. You're providing the music for the people to sing to God. Like I said last time, we're all pointers. Or the people on stage are pointers. We point up to the Lord. We want them to look through us and see God. We don't want them to look at us and worship us or say, "Wow, I would hate it if the congregation of my church came in and all they took away from a Sunday was, man, that drummer was really good." Obviously, I'm happy when people compliment me on my drumming, for sure. But if that's all they're going to take away, that is so sad. I would rather never play again so that people get to the heart of worship than play every Sunday for the rest of my life and people just look at the drums. Absolutely. And I hope everyone would agree with me on that. As sad as I would be to never play again, I would rather do that. And so we are serving the congregation, and we are praising the Lord with our gifts that He has given us on stage. So to close, I just want to ask, do you prepare like a leader? Like you are leading worship? Like you are leading the congregation, leading their hearts to worship? And are you, this is kind of a look in the mirror question, but are you a worshiper that people should follow? That's what I would ask yourself. And Colossians, I'll close with this. Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men." So that's all I have for you today. Hope you all enjoyed the podcast. I've enjoyed doing this. It's been a ton of fun so far. I really do like just sitting down and talking to the camera about whatever. But let me know y'all's thoughts. You can message me on Instagram. Let me know what you think. I'm always open for feedback. If you want me to change anything, talk about anything, I can totally do any subject that y'all want. Again, you can follow me on Instagram at Reagan Cannington. Also on Twitter, same thing, at Reagan Cannington. I'm trying to keep my tweets going. I like Twitter. I think I can just I sometimes just think of things and just write it out and post it because nobody follows me, so it's low stakes really. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. And again, my name is Reagan Cannington. See y'all later.